And now you're heading over to part 2 of that episode right over there. All right, everyone, we are back with Zack. We were talking about fats, about adaptogens, nootropics. If you didn't get a chance to listen to the first audio, you may not know in the world. You may not know what in the world is going on during this episode. So please go back and listen to the audio first. So Zack, we're talking about right before we finished, this is something you want to take in the morning, ideally, because you don't want it to mess up your sleep. And, we're talking, in between and before the initial recording that I do endurance running. Sometimes my races are 20 plus, 24 hour, 30 hour events. Would you recommend something like this and maybe even how much if you've never tried it to someone like me that's going to be in an event, not pre-event, but, live? Okay, I'm running for 100 miles. I want to finish this in under 24 hours. How would you recommend maybe using it?
Yeah, sure. Well, so we don't have any experience directly with 20 or 30 hour events. But what I would say is for my personal long runs of anywhere from 2 to 3 hours typically, and any sort of day I've done where I've been like backpacking or just kind of on my feet and moving around all day, I noticed that when I have this stuff, like before I do that, even during, I've just got like really smooth, sustained energy. My blood sugars are flat, and I'm not craving food. And so, with ultra running, I'm sure you can say better than I. One of the things that people have to be really careful of is like digestive upset from things that they're
you can for sure. Yeah.
So in this case, like if the more you can do potentially to unlock those endogenous fat stores and be able to use that as your fuel substrate versus consuming stuff exogenously and having to take all that food in, the better probably.
Yeah. And I imagine, just like I'm looking at all the ingredients on the other screen here, all those nootropics and adaptogens are only going to be like, a little added benefit to that as well, besides just the fat itself, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, maybe this is a good opportunity to mention a few of those things that are going to support distance exercise. So, tyrosine is a dopamine precursor. So that it's an amino acid that ends up being formed into dopamine, norepinephrine, and basically supporting like activation and motivation. And so during a race, it's a great thing to have actually. And then taurine is like basically like creates a smooth energy and also supports blood flow. And so that's something that also can be beneficial with exercise. Acetylcholine is a choline donor, and choline is basically used to create the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. And that is actually not only is that important for like acuity and sharpness, but it's also good for nerve and muscle signaling. And so like people will sometimes have things like alpha GPC or huperzine before doing workouts in order to basically support more optimal muscle signaling and function. So all those things I think are gonna. Oh, and then ginseng too. That's a really great workout supplement. And we use a very clean ginseng that's actually fermented. And so with ginseng, there's typically like a fairly long process of taking the ginsenosides in and then having those break down into metabolites that are then the active ingredients in the body. But basically by pre-fermenting the ginseng, those metabolites are already available. And so 15 minutes after ingesting our ginseng, you're already going to be benefiting from the product.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So I think you should give it a shot.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be something that may be very beneficial. Keep my brain on my shoulders wouldn't be the worst part either, Cool.
Absolutely.
So let's just talk about this. So you said you run like these 2 and 3 hour runs. What is like an athletic day or a busy day or fitness day look like for you in general? I'd love to hear people's like your human powered stories.
Yeah, of course. So I guess I would say my running career has really come in 2 parts now. So I've been doing it for 10 years. The first 5 or so, I was just in a build-up mode, and running was like my job. My high school homework was secondary. Even in college, like it was like for the first couple of years, like running was my highest priority for sure. And then actually, as soon as I started working on Quevos, I kind of realized that it was going to have to be sort of a secondary priority for me, because like the business just had demands on my time that I had to abide. And so I guess for these last 5 years, running has been not so much like a full-time job as like something to keep me healthy and keep insulin sensitive and all that. But I definitely developed some understanding of training during those 5 years in particular, and actually became a sort of coach to like other runner friends around me. And
Cool.
actually still
The best way to learn is to teach.
Yeah. And it's great to have just more, you know, reading like training logs from like other athletes is great because you can get a sense of what's worked for them. But actually being able to deploy your own interventions, and especially with yourself and other athletes, is very useful because you can have a hypothesis and really directly test it rather than just observe the sort of like mix of hypotheses that other athletes
Yeah.
have deployed, not really know what's doing what. Um, so yeah, for I guess right now I'm back in a build-up phase. I'm kind of trying to make running a priority again, and like my highest priority, tie with the business maybe, just because I love it so much and I really would love to like be at peak performance again. And so as basically my general principle here is, as you mentioned in our last segment, recovery is so crucial and I think underemphasized. If you read like if you read like forums in America, like people are like every day off sets you back 2 days. But if you go and read like the philosophy of like coaches in Kenya and Ethiopia, it's like a day off, whatever. Like the body is not gonna is not gonna fall apart in a day.
Yep.
And so for me and for the athletes I've coached, like we basically we're highly periodized, both in microcycles and in the sort of macro cycles as well. So basically, it's like let's get stimulus that encourages the body to adapt, and then let's thoroughly recover from that because we don't want to risk a broken bone or a strained muscle or burnout or sickness. And so with running, sorry, I'm going on here, but I realized
No,
there's
it's
a
good.
sort of okay, cool. Here's a sort of framework. Your You can treat your training as essentially investments in signaling to your body for it to improve. So every single session you do is an opportunity to tell your body to improve. The specific kind of session you're doing sends a specific message about the way in which you need to improve. And not only are there like literal like biochemical signals that are actually creating like development of tissue and all that, and actually conversion of like muscle fibers and mitochondrial biogenesis and all this stuff, but actually recovering from the session as well is part of part of this process of growing and building. And so basically, like, yeah, so that's your investment curve. And if you could do like infinite amount of training, then you'd think, okay, we'll get an infinite return on this training. But it turns out that we're constrained in two different ways in the amount of training that we can do as runners. So there's a mechanical constraint, meaning your bones and your ligaments and your tendons can only support so much load. Running is a ballistic exercise where you're at the same time that you're like absorbing shock, you're also producing motion. And
Hmm.
so that puts a lot of strain on areas like the Achilles or the knees or things like that. And So that's one constraint. And then the second constraint is actually the energetic constraint. And so like this is the thing that's going to make it hard to run like 3 hours at a relatively fast pace. Like you're going to actually struggle with your fuel substrates. And then basically, if you extend that constraint over the course of a training cycle, you might get burnt out. You might have just basically put too much metabolic strain on your tissues, and you might be fatigued for that reason. And so basically my job as an athlete, as a coach, as I'm thinking about training, is to figure out what sort of portfolio of investments I can make that falls under my constraint curves, pushes those curves out, and also encourages my body to adapt. So that's a lot, but it basically just means you're gonna want to do stuff that pushes the envelope a bit, and you're gonna want to sufficiently recover from that too.
Cool. Cool. That's the way you got to do it. I love that. And I've done it all. I've done 160 plus days in a row of running. I've done, the universe also knows to tell you to take breaks. I had a grade 4 sprain on a trail run in my ankle. So I had 15 weeks off.
Wow.
I had to focus on recovery and weightlifting and, muscle building versus and stability building. So I agree. I think, there's definitely, and I love the term you use, investment in your health. And that goes not only with running everybody, that goes with everything you do every single day in your lifestyle, from the food, from the people you hang out with, from what you're reading and learning, for what you put in your body, any way, shape, or form. Food, medicine, lotions, potions, all these things can have an impact that are either going to elevate the bar or reduce the bar. So if you focus more on the things that are going to elevate, and yes, if you do a few of the bad things, you're human. I'm not going to yell at you. I don't think anybody will. And you shouldn't yell at yourself either. But then it's, you got a psychological issue at that point, at that point. But you want to focus on that growing end. So I love, Zach, that you said, it's an investment in your health and your life and your performance. So I think that's a good place to end. So hopefully everybody will be investing in their health. Go get some Lifestacks. Check it out. Is there a favorite flavor for you?
I love chocolate actually.
Chocolate.
But I think vanilla, like you can't go wrong with vanilla. Like if you like mocha, then definitely go with the chocolate. But can't go wrong really.
Can't go wrong. All right, perfect, cool. Everybody, Zack Schrier, Lifestacks. Appreciate you and your time, and I'm excited to see this thing grow for you.
Thank you, Josh. Really appreciate it.
So you're still here. Awesome. I want to thank you so much for watching part 2 of this episode. Make sure you scroll down on the page you're on right now and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You definitely want to be the first to get information on new episodes, new videos, product launches, live events, affiliate discounts, and so much more. So have a great day, evening, or night, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.